angelic, ingenious supplies.
What's up, Spikes? Alex, Aaron, and Eliot all coming back at you with another set review, this time for March of the Machines. Today we're going to get right into it, but before we do, we got to shout out our new sponsor, GameGenic. GameGenic has been super generous and has sponsored the entire channel all the way up and down. We got products, we got services, and if you haven't already caught the video, go check out the fact that we're giving away stuff. Check our socials, check the doobly-doo, all the details are there. Every month until at least June, right?
I think so. I think it's June.
So, at least one more set, so make sure you go check that out. Anyway, today we're going to get jumping into some cards. First card up, we have Surge of Salvation. It's a 1 white for an instant. It says, you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. Prevent all damage that black and or red sources would deal to creatures you control this turn. How do you feel about this one, Aaron?
I like this card a lot. It's half the side of Heroic Intervention.
Yep.
For only 1 white mana, and it has huge upside with a variety of effects like Blasphemous Acts and combat. But even just as a protection spell, I like it quite a bit with the upside of winning through red-black combat and the pyroclasm effects that red typically has to destroy all creatures. I like it quite a bit for 1 white. It's you can't ask for too much more.
Yeah, I definitely like that they are kind of specializing this sort of effect. So for the cost of 1 white or 1 green, there's a lot of this kind of thing as well. You can get the one that is best for you, kind of a thing, you know? So
I appreciate that they're giving white a little more interaction, especially with some of the different pieces that we've seen moving around in the last few sets. I like that this does a lot of stuff for not a lot of cash. It's just a high quality pick. Next up, we're going to talk about City on Fire. That's 5 red for an enchantment with Convoke. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage instead. Woo! Triple's good.
triple, huh?
Triple's good.
Triple.
Yeah.
Tell me about triple.
It's Fire Emancipation.
Yeah.
But for more mana. 2 more mana, right? But it has Convoke, right?
Yeah.
So you get to attach, you can discount it heavily. Fire Emancipation is always a card that I've been trying to shoehorn into the decks that kind of last minute doesn't make the cuts, but this one being able to come down a little sooner and more importantly, you're able to kind of play it and another spell in the same turn because you can discount the City on Fire, which Fire Emancipation doesn't have.
Right.
So I like this one a lot, and it's only a rare, which is nice, not mythic.
Yeah.
That helps, yeah. Convoke on this spell is going to be absolutely busted, obviously with Goblin tokens.
Oh, yeah.
Even soldier tokens, right? Like some of them are red-white, or even just the white ones making this cost red, is not bad.
This is one that I'm like considering trying to find a space in some of my token decks to see if it can fit. I think this is essentially a staple if you're the kind of player who's running something like a Krenko deck.
Oh yeah.
A Torbrand type beat.
Torbrand beats. Yep, absolutely. It's got really high quality, and I like that it's fun. It's very clearly not designed to be anything other than a fun commander card.
Fun for me.
Yeah, exactly. Not for you. Yeah. I also like that it's not symmetrical. It only benefits you.
Right.
Next up, Jeru and Hazaret. 2 red, white for a legendary creature human god. As long as you have 1 or fewer cards in hand, this card has Vigilance and Haste. Whenever this card attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may exile a legendary creature card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Until next turn, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. You wanted basically the exact other half of both of these cards, right?
Yeah, this one is like, you read this and then you read Winota.
Yeah.
And, they don't really compare, but this one's still exciting.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it has a very all-in Boros vibe to it. Like if this is your commander, it's sort of encouraging you to just vomit your hand and use the attack trigger to get your other legendaries out. I'm not sure that there's necessarily as much support for that in red-white. What do you feel about that, Aaron?
So I like this card a lot. I definitely wanted to talk about it. I've been playing a lot of Boros or Legend Matters aggressive decks.
Okay.
And originally this was a curve topper that I thought about playing that I thought was really interesting. But the thing I like most about it is, especially in Boros is kind of guilty of having pretty one-dimensional commanders for a very long time.
Right.
So when stuff like Osgir, Alabu, I think is the other one, and then Winota and Feather, those type of cards came out. It gave it, just this one card existing gave a whole other angle that Boros could do. So this card, let's say it's your commander, giving it haste isn't difficult. It's going down to 1 card, maybe is. But the fact that you get the cast trigger off of it, you can cast Eldrazi off of it. You can cast like big flashy effects.
True.
With like scroll rack and whatnot, that it gives you an angle that Boros just couldn't do before.
Right.
So that's why I like this card quite a bit. It might not be, it's definitely not Winota in terms of like just raw power level, but in terms of like interesting build around more casual things, depending how casual Eldrazi are.
Sure.
I think this card is very, very interesting.
The old casual Eldrazi. Yeah, I agree. I think that this is something that is a little more unique than the non-humans angle, because I think that sort of encourages small value type ads, whereas this is very much more like you were saying, what if it was a gigantic tentacle monster for free? So yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
I definitely missed that it casts them without paying the mana cost. Yeah,
Actually casts.
yeah, that's pretty good.
Doesn't have to get it either, just the packs. They're also very important.
Very good.
And don't get me wrong, I think Vigilance and Haste on a 5/4 is almost always going to be good at 5 mana, so I don't think that there's a problem with this body either. Let's move on to Hoarding Broodlord. That's 5. Black for a creature dragon with Convoke, flying, and when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a card. Exile it face down, then shuffle. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may play it. Spells you cast from exile have Convoke. I know you and I were talking a little bit about this earlier today.
Yeah, so we're like a little past when Runescar Demon would see as much play as it did. But again, similar to maybe the Fire Emancipation comparison, this card, you can play it on the cheap if you have a board to Convoke it. And then the card you get, you can also play on the cheap. So a lot of Black X decks that have a lot of things lying around, like Aristocrat decks, so you can kind of power this thing out and then your payoff in the same turn relatively easily or at a huge discount that you otherwise couldn't do, which I like a lot, right? It finds like your Grave Pact effect. It can find something like Bastion Remembrance, something to help you progress the board that way. Or it can be a combo card and find the combo card that can't be messed with because it's in your hand. And again, the card having Convoke is attached to the dragon, unfortunately, but I think it's a cool card regardless.
I really like that they brought back Convoke for some of these flashier big mana spells that we're seeing. The whole colorless or a card of the creature's color, especially with these triple pip cards, means that they're not super splashable, but you can usually get there regardless of how your lands have worked out, if you're playing to the board. I really like how that meshes together.
This one, I think it was the Tasigur Discord for CEDH found some line with this card, I'm pretty sure, where and I don't recall it exactly because Tasigur's not exactly my cup of tea, but maybe we'll find whatever it is and I'll make Jim put the combo here or whatever. It's something like you Evo or Neoform Tasigur into this and it gets something that wins the game.
Interesting. That doesn't surprise me, but that's super cool. Let's move on to Vorinclex, one of our first two-sided cards in this set. Vorinclex is 3 green for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor with Trample, Reach. And when it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 forest cards. Reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle. And then, for 6 green, you can exile Vorinclex and return to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Only as a sorcery, and that gets you the Grand Evolution.
A lot more text.
Oh yeah, this is a saga with first chapter, mill 10 cards. Put up to 2 creature cards from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. Chapter 2, distribute 7 1/1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. Or Chapter 3, until end of turn, creatures you control gain 1. This creature fights target creature you don't control. Then you exile it and bring it back as Vorinclex again, getting you 2 more forests. I think this is a fun card. I think this is very green. I like the sort of pseudo prime time. It's got a lot of stuff going on. What do you think about it, Aaron?
This card is the upfront body isn't much to write home about. You do get 2 forest cards that can find duels if you needed to, but that's really not what we're here for. It does help you eventually pay the 8 mana that can be interact with very, very easily. But this is, for all the Praetors that we were looking at, that I was looking at in this set at least, this is the most flashy, the most fun to play. I think this is the one I would probably play over every other one, just because if you do manage to transform it, it creates quite the board presence.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most impactful of all of them.
I agree. Milling 10 cards and picking amongst the milled cards is a little bit more strict than just your graveyard. So you can't necessarily do like Entomb shenanigans.
Right, like it's not necessarily getting 8 or 10 mana value worth of creatures off the 10, but it's almost certainly getting, 6, 7. Like, even if you mill 10 and you hit, Wood Elves, Solemn Simulacrum, are you that upset?
No, I don't think so, especially if you can keep it around long enough to put those 7/1/1 counters on something.
And then flip it back, and then flip it back, and then flip it back.
Yeah.
I love like this whole cycle of Praetors, but this one especially, I think Aaron picked a good one here because the like flip is tempting.
I really don't think that you're probably going to be in the game much past the first one.
Come on.
It is weird. They all have just their name and no other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is a bit
Just
jarring.
Vorinclex.
Yeah, since they didn't use it, I might as well use it up now.
Yeah.
Any case, let's talk about Dance with Calamity. 7 and a red for a sorcery for Shuffle Your Library. As many times as you choose, you may exile the top card of your library. If the total mana value of cards exiled this way is 13 or less, you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana costs. Woo! This is fun. So, as far as we know, we don't have the release notes as of today when we're talking. But as far as we know, we are fairly certain that you will be able to empty your library.
Right. So there was actually an interaction when this card was spoiled originally on Twitter with Eliot, I think is the judge's name. Raph Sputin on Twitter did confirm it is like you shuffle your library, you exile 1. Then you decide whether or not you're going to keep going.
Yes.
So yes, you can pay 7 and a red, exile your entire library. You obviously, or well, maybe not obviously, maybe there's some world in which the entirety of your library costs 13 or less. Maybe there's some gimmick deck that will exist because of this.
Or you're trying to do something else with emptying your library.
Right. Or you're, playing blackjack kind of, right? You're like, ooh, I'm at 7. Like, ooh, I've got a couple 6 drops, but like, do I keep going? Do I stop? And I think that part of the card is really cool.
I think it's a lot of fun, and I think this is the exact kind of thing that you're going to see in some of those chaos type decks you see people put together. Eye of the Storm, Possibility Storm, Hive Mind, things like that.
Oh, sure.
Where everyone's getting to do stuff. That's where I think these sorts of cards have a home. And you're also just going to see them in, I really want to do this type decks.
Yeah, this is, I really want to play this for free off of Magar, the Magic String. And just in general, this card is just super fun. Flavor text is on point. It's great. It's everything I want to do. It's very over the top, very flashy. I don't know how good it is, but that's most of the fun of this card.
Definitely.
So next up, we've got maybe my most hyped card in the set, Chivalric Alliance. 1 and a white for an enchantment that says, whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, draw a card. 2, discard a card, create a 2/2 white and blue night creature token with vigilance.
Alex, do you like attacking with 2 or more creatures?
Oh, I love it. It's very good. It's the type of card that I think white in general has needed more of for a while, and I think this is in the correct form. This is the type of card that I believe in my heart is going to find its way into a ton of white decks over the course of the years here. Given that we're already seeing it going for $15, I think other people are already on this train. So if this is one you want to pick up, make sure you maybe consider getting a pre-order in. Sooner rather than later on this one, almost certainly. Also, I got to be honest, this has got fun flavor text for me. The idea of some random knight riding up to a dragon and being like, all right, we're bros for now. That's a big fan of that. How do you feel about it, Aaron?
Yeah, I like the, Wizards has been throwing a lot of these Bones of Commander players for white specifically. 2 and 3 mana card, like the Takasha's Welcoming Vampire, Deep Gnome Terramancer, the Halfling, I'm forgetting the name of.
Archivist of Magma?
That's the one. They keep giving these kind of conditional draw effects. This one is, some of them are getting easier and easier as time goes on. And this card isn't super flashy, but it does the job. It's very consistent, and it's a lot of what you want to do. And white X, almost anything, while also giving you a way to make the tokens or do something with the extra cards you might have lying around. So it's hard not to like it.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think especially once you move into the late game, the odds of most white decks wanting to continue to ramp to the board, not necessarily there. And so having that extra outlet is great. Yeah. Speaking of something that I think Twitter's not going to like, let's talk about Wand of the World Soul. 2 and a white for an artifact that enters the battlefield tapped and has add white or The next spell you cast this turn has Convoke. I think this is a fantastic mana rock.
It's a super cool design, for sure.
Oh, super cool design.
Yeah, they've been getting, fancy with the colored mana rocks.
Yeah.
This is obviously the white one.
Yeah.
And it's neat. It's cool.
I think this is up there with Cursed Mirror or Midnight Clock in terms of interesting utility rock.
For sure.
I know that 3 mana rock's bad. I don't know about that.
This one's like, it's 3 mana, it ETB's tapped, blah, blah. We hear you. We're not listening.
Well, not only that, but one of the biggest issues with that is you're not contextualizing what you're talking about. If you're always talking about CDH, yeah, sure, you're absolutely correct. Fill your boots.
I'm certainly not playing Wand of World Soul in CDH.
Exactly.
Wow.
The idea that I'm really,
down.
really looking to add Convoke to things at that level just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Anyway, I do think this is another piece of tech that you're probably just going to want in your binder, in your trades, in your available build for a long time to come. Because how often do you want to cast stuff for a lot cheaper than you can?
Well, and it's like we're saying with the city and the black
Demon, yeah.
dragon, right? Like, how often are you giving something Convoke and then winning the game because you're casting that and something else?
Exactly.
Because of it
Yeah,
or whatever.
like I would happily pay a higher upfront cost on those cards because I can Convoke them out.
Yeah.
So I can take existing cards and also add Convoke to them. So yeah, again, this isn't competitive, but it's certainly fun, and I think there's tons of space where this card is fits in very easily to even the like that white enchantment we just talked about.
Yeah,
fits into those decks relatively well and gives you a payoff that otherwise no other card does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because realistically, that second this next spell you cast this turn has Convoke could be a ton of mana.
That's terrifying.
Like it potentially is going extremely mana positive.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's probably why it enters the battlefield tapped.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to Tribute to the World Tree. Green, green, green for an enchantment with whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2 1/1 counters on it. I just like this. I like that it's so deeply green. I like that it's not 3 and a green, as an example. I think that would be way too good. I really appreciate that they kept both effects very in color.
Absolutely. What's the uncommon that does this for 2 and a green?
Elemental Bond.
Elemental Bond is the same thing. The half of it, I should say.
Yes, right.
So it's 2 and a green for a 3 or greater draw card.
The first half.
So for trading the 2 generic into 2 green, it doesn't have a downside. It makes my small guys big and my big guys draw me a card.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I especially enjoy that they've been spending more time in the last few sets adding a lot of pips to effects that a lot of that color is going to want. I would really not like this if it was a single green pip on it because it's so splashable at that point.
Yeah.
As it is, I think this is an excellent, excellent card. All right, next up is our favorite segment. It's Best Bear in the Set! All right, let's discuss the candidates for Best Bear in this set of March of the Machine. First up, we've got Dusk Legion Duelist, 1 and a white for a creature vampire soldier with vigilance. It's 2/2, gasp, and whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on Dusk Legion Duelist, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Next up, we've got Streetwise Negotiator. That's 1 and a green for a creature cat citizen. Backup 1, which backup, let's talk about that real quick, is when this creature enters the battlefield, put this many 1/1 counters on target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn. In this case, it's this creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. And it says 0/2, but that's a 2/2.
Asterisk. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's
definitely.
a 2/2. And last but certainly not least, Blood Feather Phoenix, 1 and a red for a creature Phoenix flying, can't block, and whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to an opponent or a battle, you may pay red. If you do, return Blood Feather Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. We'll talk about battles in just a little bit, but those are our 3 contestants for Best Bear in the Set. I think, personally, it might be Dusk Legion Duelist.
Alex likes the white card. What a surprise.
Surprise.
The white soldier card that draws cards crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's a real close race between this and the Phoenix. I think the Negotiators may be lagging a bit behind. It's obviously when you want that effect, it's cool, in your Doran deck, in your whatever. I'm personally on the side of the Phoenix.
Okay.
So Aaron's going to have to be our tiebreaker here. I think this is just the best rate that you've ever gotten for, like, there's, you know, Chandra's Phoenix, Arclight Phoenix, so many of these, and this is just a 2-mana 2/2. You pay 1 red to return it with haste when the instant or sorcery deals damage. Like, I'm all aboard the Phoenix train.
That's fair.
I think the Phoenix is probably the best of the 3 in the vacuum, but the Dusk Legion Duelist is the most interesting card because it has a slightly higher ceiling. It fits into an archetype that otherwise doesn't reward putting the counters on. So it's a nice little touch. So I think I give it the Duelist just because, again, I think it's the more interesting of the 3 for sure.
All right, well, congratulations to Dusk Legion Duelist for winning Bear of this set. You will get played a lot in Draft. Let's move on now to Kogla and Yidaro. That's 2 red, green for legendary creature, ape, dinosaur, turtle, because that's a thing I expected to say today. When Kogla and Yidaro enters the battlefield, choose 1. This gains trample and haste until end of turn. This fights target creature you don't control. Or 2 red, green, discard this, destroy up to 1 target enchantment or artifact, then shuffle it into your library and draw a card. That's a lot of options there.
It is.
Yeah, I'll give you in the comments 3 seconds to guess which of the 3 of us wanted to put this card on the list. It was me.
You said you were giving 3 seconds.
I was stumbling over it though, so it was probably 3 seconds in there. It was me. This is a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I have a Gishath deck. This is going in the Gishath deck.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with whichever art you pick for this. In the showcase one, Kogla's riding Yidaro.
It's great.
In the other one, Kogla's power bombing a Phyrexian Titan into Yidaro's shell. And yeah, this card does everything.
Yeah,
It's a 7/7.
Oh yeah.
That's huge. Trample and haste. I've never loved 2 keywords more.
That's fair.
Fight target creature, sure. You know, maybe you got to get rid of something. And then on the discard to disenchant, it's a little expensive, 2 red, green, but it's stapled to shuffle it back in and draw a card.
Right.
So in theory, you just draw this again, or again, let's say my Gishath deck, I'm destroying a troublesome artifact or enchantment, shuffling it back in, drawing a card, and then attacking with Gishath, maybe hitting this thing.
Yeah.
Insane. This card has too much text.
Yeah, way too much text.
This card does a really good job melding the card Kogla and Yidaro together. I'm on the other side, I've played a lot of Kogla in my life. And this is it's a great rate for a appealing mana cost. I like 2 red, 2 green. It's not super splashable, but it isn't terribly difficult to cast. And it does a lot of everything that Gruul wants to do, in my opinion. Like Eliot said, the channel effect, this cycle-ish effect that it does is a tad expensive, but it does deal with troublesome permanents while also drawing you a card and not just going into graveyard.
Yeah.
So again, a lot to like for sure.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of it. I don't know that I'm going to see it so much in the command zone, but I really do like the idea.
I do think it's a great 99 card for sure.
Yeah. Next up, let's talk about Phyrexian Censor. That's 2 and a white for a Phyrexian wizard. Each player can't cast more than 1 non-Phyrexian spell each turn. Non-Phyrexian creatures enter the battlefield tapped on a 3/3 body. I like this.
Yeah, this one's getting talked about in, surprise, surprise, Winota in CEDH. Obviously, it's a rule of law effect for non-Phyrexian spells. The one contingent that I've seen on people not being super high on it is the second line of text. Non-Phyrexian creatures ETB tapped does stop your Kiki-Jiki combo, but honestly, some lists are moving away from the Kiki-Jiki combo in favor of just more rule of law effects or whatever, right? If you're hitting, I guess you're not hitting rule of law with this, but if you're playing more stacks pieces, you don't necessarily need the combo finish.
It's a better Eidolon of Rhetoric in that deck.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, but we've seen sort of the metamorphosis of how people respond to Winota decks in general, becoming much more focused on preventing triggers in the first place. So having something that slows the game down and makes it so that people can't get off the races if you do stumble is kind of important. Personally, my least favorite thing about this is that the art's super gross. So anyway, no, I want to say like all of the art in this set actually is kind of off the chain. I haven't really seen any stinkers, and things look great.
Oh, there's one not good one. They gave... was it Krenko? No.
Oh yeah.
Who's that goblin I showed you?
It was Krenko from the Commander set, I think.
The Street Kingpin or whatever.
Yeah,
they gave him new art. It's not good.
Oh, okay.
He's got a weird face.
It's really like 3D rendered. It kind of like Reboot,
Oh,
but like not in a good way.
well, shout out to Reboot.
Shout out.
Next up, let's
Do
talk
Americans
about.
know what Reboot is? Do
I come from the net.
Yeah.
you know what Reboot is?
Yes. Anyway, shout out to our 18 to 25-year-olds who have no idea what we're talking about. Anyway, let's talk about Invasion of Ikoria.
First battle.
X green for Invasion of Ikoria for a battle siege. 6 damage on it. When Invasion of Ikoria enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle. We'll talk about the back in a second. Let's talk about what battles are. So when you cast a battle, you're going to give it to an opponent. They don't control it, they just defend it. The idea is that you want to attack the battle to kill it, and when you do, you get to cast the backside of it for free.
Cast is important.
Yes. And in this case, the backside of this one is Zerotha, Apex of Ikoria, a legendary creature, dinosaur.
Who chose this one?
Reach for each non-human creature you control. You may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked on an 8/8 body. So getting a essentially 8/8 for as little as 2 mana and attacking this card seems pretty good. Personally, the thing I like about it is it's a finale of Devastation with minor tweaks.
Right. That's definitely why this card is here. I think in most green X, like CEDH level decks especially, this is just finale number 2, or Green Sun's number 3, or Court of Calling number 4, whatever.
Yeah, Court of Calling is probably the most accurate.
Yeah. Non-human is not the most relevant line of text. There are not often a lot of humans in these green decks that are what you're tutoring necessarily, but it does, kind of limit the power level from being an absolute 10 out of 10. But I do like that it specifically has the finale piece where it is library or graveyard.
That's good.
I think that's important. Ultimately, though, I'm really excited to see if they keep playing with battles moving forward. I like that if you pay attention closely in the reminder text there, this is just one type of battle. Sieges are ones that you give to an opponent and then attack yourself. There is feasibly the idea of a battle that operates differently, maybe one that you have to defend and has a nice active effect, things like that. So I'm really excited to see what they play in this space with. I think they're a lot better than your sort of remove or start losing the game that you tend to see on Planeswalkers, especially in like standard decks when they make it in there. I think these type of effects have better design space and have a more compelling narrative for why you want to spend your attacks on the battle rather than on someone's face.
Sure.
I like this one specifically, especially in Commander. It scales well. The fact that it's X green is huge. You can play it early as to get a mana guy. You can play it later to get a huge guy. And I want to talk about battles just in Commander, I guess, for a moment. So in traditional Magic, like standard, obviously the opponent you're choosing to defend it is your one opponent.
The one sitting across from you.
Right.
Yeah.
In Commander, you have 3 opponents, which adds a huge other element to battles. My first reaction is like, oh, it's way easier to attack. I have 3 other opponents. I have the guy who's not blocking, right?
Yeah.
But I also have 2 other opponents who may or may not be incentivized to stop me from transforming this. So I like how it can affect the game, similar to Monarch, kind of. Where I'm trying to fight for this, people trying to stop me to do it. And yeah, I just think it adds an interesting element. And again, this one, because then even if you're not transforming it right away, because you do cast the back half of it once you defeat it, they can counterspell it. They can interact with that spell again.
For sure.
So I really, really like how they're going to play out in probably in a more casual setting. Some of them are very flashy, but I'm not quite sure what to put a home in. This one I think is the easiest because it's good on as early as turn 3. It's good late. It has applications in CDH. So I think this one's the easiest one to like for sure.
Yep. I think you're right on the money.
And it's a big dinosaur.
Big dinosaur.
You know, it helps.
Speaking of things that are probably going to be relevant for CDH, let's talk about Change the Equation. 1 and a blue for an instant spell that says choose 1. Already off to a great start. Counter target spell with mana value 2 or less. Or counter target red or green spell with mana value 6 or less. I think this is actually super relevant in today's CDH scene between your Winotas, your Jeska's Wills, your Underworld Breaches, and all sorts of different green things that we see, like the invasion of Ikoria, Eldritch Avo.
Doesn't counter Dargo. Dargo Willows.
Yeah, Dargo's 7.
Yep, good game.
Thanks.
Good game. And it's never quite a dead card because, let's be honest, a lot of cards in CDH are 2 mana value or less.
Yeah, the I guess downside is that it is a colorless and a blue, right?
Yes,
it is
so
a 2.
mana's a lot of mana.
Yeah, it's up there with, you know, mana drain, actual factual counterspell. So it has to be like better. Yeah, exactly. But I think this card might meet those criteria, right? Like you're saying. Counters Winota on the cast because it's a red spell with 6 or less. Counters Seedborn Muse for 2 mana, which is pretty good. And the notable part, I think, is that the first line of text doesn't say non-creature.
Yeah.
Or like Dispel says specifically instant or sorcery or whatever, right?
Right.
This can counter Dranith Magistrate. This can counter Dockside Extortion.
Oh, yeah.
This can counter any number of 2 mana creatures that are annoying. Dothy Voidwalker. I can keep going, right? Like, I think this card is probably going to see fringe play, but I think it is going to be very good in the decks that want it.
Yeah. I don't see it being a staple by any means, but especially if your meta when you're playing CDH at home is very red heavy, if you've noticed a lot more breach wins recently.
This counters Godo.
It does counter.
It does counter Godo. I didn't want to mention it, but please don't counter my Godo. Anyway, you should really think about trying to find a spot for it. At the worst, you're probably not going to hate it. I just don't know that you're going to love it.
My thing, too, is I like the fringe blue cards like this because I have an Orvar deck, and that plays some bad spells sometimes.
One of the few decks that can play Counterspell and Mana Drain.
Yeah.
It's a bit... I'm a little hard sold on this one. The colorless has to be a big enough upside to not just play Counterspell Mana Drain.
Yeah.
Because you're almost never playing it. In fact, unless you're Orvar, maybe specifically, or even Urza. Like, I think... Again, you just play Mana Drain or Counterspell before this, but it is a very good card outside of this situation. I think this card is a good design overall. These hate cards that they print, the cycle of them they printed in this set, like the white one that we talked about earlier. There's not really a ton of risk. You know, they're just good on the front side and they're very good on the back on the hate side.
Yeah.
So it is nice that it's never dead. You know,
right.
So.
And our final card we want to talk about today is Ghalta and Mavren. That's 3 green, white for a dinosaur vampire. That's right. It's got trample, and whenever you attack, choose 1. Create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures, or create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. On a 12/12.
Yeah, so first of all, this is a 7 mana 12/12. Second of all, it's got trample on its own. Third of all, it makes dino tokens with trample. The other line of text, not relevant. I'm not even purchasing these vampire tokens. Who cares? I'm never making them.
It's good for my Silesia token deck.
Shut up.
I'm gonna convoke my spells and my enchantment and that other guy.
Okay, it's actually huge. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you
right.
can
Make a million creatures.
you have like 7 creatures out. You use that wand to give this convoke. Pay 0, get guy. Come on.
I think this card, okay, outside of Eliot only talking about his Ghalta deck, or his Gishat deck, I'm sorry. You know, I think this is a really cool tokens card.
Yes.
Fair.
Making a big idiot, Eliot making another Eliot is fine, but making a lot of tokens, I think is way more interesting.
Right. I've actually seen, I believe there's some combos with the vampire side of this. That allow you to do some different types of shenanigans. I don't have any of them handy. If you want to learn about them, just keep watching this channel. I'm sure I'll get bored at some point and make that into a short. The point is, though, I like this because of what Aaron was saying. It gives you 2 different directions to play tokens. You could play in that populate direction, where you're trying to get the biggest, nastiest token you can find to make another one of those, or you're just flooding the board. Because much like Mael, where you're getting extra soldiers for the number of soldiers, this just keeps building on itself as you attack and attack and attack.
It also has a great show. You know what?
Yeah.
The Multiverse Legends, or whatever they're called in this set, are fantastic. The variant that this card has, the Aztec coin type beat, all the showcase variants of the variety of legends they put in this set are all excellent.
Yes.
Except for the MCAT ones that are legible now. Change it back, cowards. I want to make them legible.
Yeah.
That's that was cringe.
Giga cringe.
Make it illegible again.
I guess the way I come down on that one, because specifically what we're talking about is, I'm sure Jim will find, I think it's like Emoti.
Yeah.
They've got that old Amonkhet Invocation.
Drew and Hazaret.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Drew and Hazaret. They have that old one, and if you look at the old cards like Force of Will or Ruination.
Scorpion God.
Yeah.
Doomsday is
they're
my favorite.
basically impossible to read.
God is illegible.
Whereas now, currently, they kind of did this thing where they kept all the set dressing and they were just like,
Put a black font
take
on
this
it.
Wingdings away and put Bellerin back
I
in.
want the wingdings.
Yeah.
Personally, I just wish
I think they're cowards.
I just wish they would have scrapped the frame. No, and hear me out on this. If you're gonna half do it, don't do it.
Oh, sure. You mean like on the new ones?
Yeah, on the new ones. If you're not gonna do it, don't do it. On the other hand, if you wanted to come up with something new that had a holistic quality to it, I think that's also good. I think this is one case where the feedback got heard, but it didn't get understood. If that makes sense. What
agree.
got heard was we can't read these cards, and what they should have heard was you need to redesign this frame.
Yeah, I get it.
That's what I'm at.
One last note about Ghalta and Mavren.
Oh, yeah.
The one that's in the set, not like there's the bundle and there's the showcase one, but the one that's in the set is my personal favorite because it's reminiscent of that scene from Lord of the Rings where they're riding the elephants. They're riding elephants into battle. We got the
They're actually not elephants,
Oh,
they're
Lord of the Rings, the
Oliphants.
Magic the
Oliphants.
Gathering set.
Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings, the Magic the Gathering set coming to a local game store near you in August.
Is it August?
October?
I don't know.
I thought it was
have
the
it on
summer.
pre-order.
It doesn't really matter, folks. Any case, was there something we covered that you agreed with? Was there something that we didn't cover that you disagree with? Do you think that actually one of the other bears is better in the set? If you do, leave a comment down below. We'll probably reply to you. We'll certainly give you a thumbs up. And once again, we'd like to thank our sponsor, GameGenic.
Sorry, real quick, too. I was going to say before we wrap it up as well, did you like this kind of shorter form set review type thing? We scrapped it for a couple in between, and now we're back kind of just each picking
Cards we like.
a handful of cards to go over. Do you like that?
Alex and I choose cards we like. Elliot chooses dinosaurs.
Actually, those are cards I like.
That's true.
If you liked it, let us know. If you didn't like it, shut up.
Well, no, just
Let us know
politely.
what you think we should do instead or whatever. This was kind of a compromise in time put in on either end of it to hopefully make something watchable but entertaining.
We also have a short about a card in this set.
Oh, yes. Breach the Multiverse happens to go infinite with good old Dualcaster Mage. We finally broke it. So we didn't talk about that card here, but we did in a short, so you can watch it right here.
Yeah, put it in the doobly-doo.
No, right here.
The very nice thing about that particular combo is you end up controlling everything in your opponent's graveyards
Everybody's
and
everything.
libraries. So
nice.
if you want something fun, go check that out. If you want some more fun, stick around. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. If you haven't checked us out on socials, do so because we're giving away product. Free product, high quality product, really, really good, nice things. That's right. If you want these things, check us out on Twitter for extra entries. Check out the YouTube community tab. Make sure you're subscribed to the Spike Feeders, and we will see you soon.